Hello, I'm Shashi Tharoor, and here I am on behalf of the Indian National Congress. As part of our manifesto consultations before the Delhi Assembly elections, Dilli ke Dil ki Baat, Congress ke Saath, this is our education Samvaad. I'm receiving a number of questions already on Facebook Live from many of you interested in the subject of education. But before I get to them, let me just say a couple of things about what's been happening with education in our national capital. The Aam Aadmi Party, as you know, has been making a big issue of education as their major accomplishment. And we're not denying that they tried to do some useful things, but sadly their performance has not matched the hype. What we're seeing, for example, is they keep telling us they've spent so much more money on education, they've raised the budget on education to record levels, but have they spent it? The figures show that the AAP government has allocated 26,577 crores on education, wow, but they have not spent 12,243 crores of that. In other words, you are looking at a gross spending of the first 4 years, because obviously the fifth year is still going on, of 68.5% unspent of their education budget. So what is the point of boasting of the budget if you're not spending the money that you're allocating on paper? I'm very proud of the fact that when the Congress was in power, we doubled the number of students enrolled in our schools in Delhi from 8 lakh to 16 lakh, adding essentially over a lakh of students every year. But what has the Aam Aadmi Party done? Instead of adding more students, they've actually ensured that 1.32 lakh students, 132,000 students, have actually left school in Delhi in the last 4 years. That is the first 4 years of their term. In fact, if you look at the pass percentages and children moving from one class to the next, the performance is particularly sad and disappointing because 55% of the students in Delhi did not move to class 10 out of class 9, exactly the opposite trend from under Congress government. Now, if you look at the overall pass percentage of schools, we had 99.45% in 2013 under the Congress government. This is the Praja report, it's not our report. It's now dropped to 68.9% in 2018. So the problem we have right now is that we're not seeing good results. What's the reason for that? Part of the reason is the Aam Aadmi Party has been unable to fill vacancies of teachers. There are 6,000 vacancies for teachers in the Delhi school system. And I must say that what we're looking at in our country at the moment is a situation in which the Aam Aadmi Party talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk. We're looking at example after example. The rate of the enrollment in class 12 has gone down by 18.75% under the Aam Aadmi Party. The dropout rate has increased to 3.1%. Under the AAP government. The Ladli scheme beneficiaries have gone down by 75%. They have not given a uniform and textbook subsidy to 93,000 school students. The number of economically weaker section children meant under the RTE to be enrolled in private schools by the government pushing it has actually gone down by 20% because the government isn't pushing it. And on top of that, 100 government schools don't have sports playgrounds, even if the Aam Aadmi Party government boasts about the infrastructure improvements they're supposed to have brought into the classrooms. So we are looking at some real challenges when it comes to school education. I know that higher education is basically concurrently shared with the central government, but even there's been no new sports complex built by the Aam Aadmi Party, whereas the Congress built 15. We've had, of course, the sports university announcement, but in the first 4 years, there have been no new universities built by the Delhi government, and the sports university was approved by the cabinet just in time for the elections. Not even a foundation has been laid for the university. No new colleges have been built, though they have made announcements on paper. And I might say that 40% of the Aam Aadmi Party's MLAs, 22 of their MLAs did not raise even a single issue on education in the Delhi Assembly. So we are looking at a situation where the Aam Aadmi Party wants you to believe that education is a big miracle, they've done so many things here, but in practice, the actual track record, when you go into the details, is rather disappointing. Now, we think we can do better. You give us a chance, and we are quite confident the Congress Party will give you a much better performance on the education sector. And I'm turning to your questions now, with apologies for that somewhat lengthy introduction. Neeraj Sachar has written saying, if the Congress were to come in power, will there be reforms in the midday meals currently being given to students? We're very, very proud of the whole idea of the midday meals, which was introduced by Congress governments, both in Delhi and nationwide. And I want to say that we are very open to suggestions. This is a Samvaad, it's a two-way consultation. No point my sitting here and telling you how we can improve the food. You tell us what you'd like to see. What kind of quality ingredients do you feel are missing that need to be restored within realistic budgetary limits? What kind of food items ought to be provided that are not being provided? You give us your suggestions, we're open to them. Sameer asks, there are 93,000 students who don't get subsidies for textbooks and school uniforms. How is Congress planning to rectify that? Very simple, we'll give the subsidies. This is an example I already mentioned in my own remarks at the beginning of this Facebook Live. The truth is, we believe that the government revenues are meant to be used for the economically weaker sections of our society. Others talk, but they don't deliver. We have a track record of delivery, and we will make sure it's done. Divyansh asks, the dropout rate for the Ladli scheme is very high. How will the Congress ensure more participation and commitment? It's not just dropout rate. 75% people actually have not even been getting benefits from the Aam Aadmi Party, and we're going to be very conscientious in ensuring that we track the beneficiaries, ensure that if they're not able to continue, we ask them why, see whether we can support them in order to get back into the system. If we are going to have a scheme, it needs a full backing of the political authorities in this government, and we assure you we're going to provide that. Sandeep, here's a much more ambitious question. How does Congress plan on improving the current education system in the schools of India? Well, that's unfortunately not an option for us except in the governments that we rule. So give us Delhi and we will improve things in Delhi. We're already working hard in Rajasthan, in Madhya Pradesh, in Chhattisgarh to improve what we're trying to do. And of course, we have a significant role in the Jharkhand coalition government as well. We will do our very best to improve the education system across the board. Just to tick off a few important things, ensure that teacher vacancies are filled, ensure that students are getting the attention they require so that learning outcomes are privileged and not just showing enrollment numbers. We're happy with the enrollment numbers. We want to ensure the kids actually learn something. One of the mistakes I believe the Aam Aadmi Party made was in dividing children into three groups of learners, talking about the Prabhat, the Nishtha, the Neo-Nishtha. That becomes a very demoralizing initiative because it segregates children. And all studies, if the Aam Aadmi Party had taken the trouble to find out, all studies demonstrate that the weaker children actually benefit from being in mixed classes with brighter children. They see what the other children are learning and accomplishing. They try and feel motivated to imitate them, whereas you put all the weak performers together, that motivation is not there. So I think that's a big mistake Aam Aadmi Party's brought. We will reverse this Prabhat, Nishtha, Neo-Nishtha idea. What we want to try and do is ensure better teaching, more focus on resources for those who can't afford to come to school, absolutely strong emphasis on ensuring learning outcomes without dividing or segregating children, trying to prevent the significant level of dropouts that are happening, and at the same time offering realistic options for vocational training and exposure to vocational training in the high schools so that those children who are not academically oriented but are good with vocations, good with their hands, good with their other kinds of skills, can develop a viable profession after school. But we would like very much to measure our performance by reducing the dropout rate and increasing the actual performance. Abdul Qadir asks, will the Congress complete the process of establishing the sports university? Yeah, well, I mean, the sports university only exists on paper, my friend. It's been approved by the cabinet of the Aam Aadmi Party just in time for the elections. I want to assure you that when we Cumbrance, and this is something we have been advocating for some time, we will give it very rapid priority, and we will actually come up with a concrete, effective and targeted sports university complex. Sandeep Kumar, will the Congress focus more on primary or higher education? Both. I mean, primary is of course the responsibility of the state government, so that is something that is a direct, full-fledged responsibility. But higher education is a concurrent responsibility, and there are two aspects to this that the Congress is conscious of. First, at the national policy level, we have laid down many of the policies when we were in power that have given us good public institutions in Delhi. Delhi University, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Jamia, there are so many institutions in Delhi that are amongst the best in the country, the most reputed in the country. And we are dismayed that the Aam Aadmi Party has sat on its hands while the students there have been maltreated, attacked, and brought to their knees by the misbehavior of either university administrations, the police, or gundas from other sides. I think what we need to ensure is that the central universities are protected, the students are able to enjoy the freedom to express themselves, to think, to grow, to debate without any fear of violence, and we will take steps to ensure that. Equally, we want to ensure that the government has a constructive attitude towards public education and that it does not go around doing things like seriously raising the hostel fees without consulting students or parents, without giving enough advance warning, without announcing a staggering schedule of increases, but rather dumping everything at short notice in a situation in which 40% of the students, it is estimated, cannot even afford to pay these new hostel fees. So this kind of major setback will absolutely have to be prevented, and the Congress government will ensure it's done for higher education as well. But all the points I've made on school education already, I won't repeat. That will be the core responsibility of the Delhi government under Congress rule. Raju says, does the Congress plan on providing any special additional provisions for minorities and EWS in schools? We already have established policies during the UPA days, and we will continue to make sure they're implemented in Delhi as they should be nationwide. There are certain grants, for example, available for minority educational institutions from the central government, and we will ensure that the Delhi government does its share to get them and ensure that they're allocated to schools in the Delhi Assembly's area. As for the economically weaker sections, it is the responsibility of the government to push the private schools and to ensure that they keep their word, to ensure that economically weaker sections are given the admissions they are entitled to under the RTE and are given an opportunity to actually be in the government, in the school system, thanks to the government's efforts. That's something that hasn't been happening with the Aam Aadmi Party. We will do that in the Congress. Last question before we run out of time is from Ayush. The curriculum has been reduced in schools to ensure that students are comfortable. This is compromised on learning. Will it remain the same or will there be changes? We will certainly want to see how this has worked. As far as the Aam Aadmi Party's experiment is concerned, 25% of the syllabus has been cut. And I understand that their argument is, in the era of Google, you don't need to study so many books. I think we will have to analyze the impact of this. I don't want to burden children with more work than they can handle. We're all familiar with the image of the Indian school child groaning under a bag laden with heavy books, far more than they can digest, coming back from a long day's work and doing lots of homework. But just cutting 25% at random and expecting Google to fill the gap is, to my mind, a somewhat irresponsible and reckless way of approaching it. All I can say is that the Congress government will not just accept this as a de facto situation. We will study its impact. We will see what has worked, what has not worked. We will also turn to teachers as well as to students to see in what ways the educational curriculum has suffered from this decision and in which ways the children have benefited. A lighter load, yes, but we want to make sure that they come out of school as well educated as when Congress was in power. Thank you for these 8 questions I've got. Oh, there is one more. Why is Kejriwal silent on the NRCCA? Well, that's not about education, but it's a really good question. Why is Kejriwal silent on the NRC and the CAA? Because he's trying to have it both ways. He's trying to get both the critics and the supporters of the NRC CAA to support him. Let me just say, Mr. Kejriwal, that won't wash. You are the chief minister of the state capital. You have said, oh, the poor police, किसी ने आदेश दिया होगा बेचारों को, that's why they didn't intervene in JNU. Well, you're the chief minister, आप तो मुख्यमंत्री हो, आपको तो कोई आदेश देने वाले नहीं है, तो आप क्या करेंगे? Why have you not met with the students? Many of us have gone to the campuses and seen the students who were injured, who were attacked in Jamia by your police, and in JNU, by your police meaning the government's police, not the Aam Aadmi Party's police, and in JNU being attacked by masked goons while the police stood idly by. Surely, even if you believe that you have not been given responsibility directly for the police, so it's not your business, you have a certain moral leadership to exercise as Chief Minister of Delhi. Where was that moral leadership? What prevented you from meeting the students? What prevented you from actually ensuring better security in the campuses? Why couldn't you pick up the phone and insist to the Home Minister that the police be sent into JNU to stop these assaults and that the police be pulled out of Jamia when they were doing the assaults? Why were you not proactive? Very simple. You are trying to duck responsibility, which is actually your responsibility as Chief Minister, and I don't think that the voters of Delhi can forgive you for that. That seems to be an uneducationally related question, but it came in from Praveen Sharma. Thank you all very much for your questions. Stay engaged, send us your ideas. I want to mention we have received over 400 ideas in the first 24 hours after we announced our manifesto consultations. We've got now 300 coming in so far today. Keep it up. We are very receptive to your ideas. One of the ideas that related to education was an idea to set up a couple of women's colleges in Delhi and to also set up additional institutions. That's a good idea we will certainly take into account in drafting our manifesto. And if there are other ideas, we are very much open to them. Write to us, call us, reach out to us. We are your party. Dilli ke dil ke baat, Congress ke saath. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.